I'm very happy to tell you what Nature Group does and what a great company we are, because looking through the room I only see two familiar faces I've seen before, so it's a huge opportunity for us to share the great story we have. What we do, and this is a slide, just look over it and forget it soon. The only thing I would like to share with you is vessels are sailing around the world and they are generating a huge amount of waste. It's ships generated waste, so it's the used engine oil, it's the bilge water, it's the fuel oil residues, and also the cargo related waste. So after a tanker has discharged product A and it wants to load product B, it very often needs to wash their tanks in order to have clean tanks again. And there is legislation around it. Out of the United Nations, you have the International Maritime Organization, and they have implemented the so-called MARPOL regulations, marine pollution. And for all the types of waste, vessels and also offshore platforms are generating, there is some kind of legislation that they should take care of the waste. And although oily waste may not be discharged anymore in the ocean and needs to be discharged to a proper facility, there are still a lot of disasters around the world, because it's very tough for the international community to monitor the world seas. An American institute has done some research around illegal dumping of oily waste around the American coast, and they came up with a number of 700,000 tons annually oily waste being disposed into the oceans. The same counts if you look into solid waste, plastics. Annually more than 4 million tons of plastic are hitting the seas, and half of it is done by vessels. The other half is coming from, well, not you and I, but there are people who are throwing some plastics away, and then through canals and things it will end up in the seas. Huge amount of waste in the oceans. And what is nature doing? Well, nature, we have a network, we have technology, we have the experience to treat maritime and offshore waste. And we can do it taking waste ashore to our facilities, or we can treat it offshore with our unique compact treatment units. That's what I want to tell you this afternoon and show you what we do. Our organization is separated in 3 lines of businesses, as we call it. It's on the one hand the maritime business, the port reception facilities, where we are currently operating port reception facilities in Gibraltar, Portugal and Rotterdam, where we are covering out of Rotterdam, Amsterdam and Antwerp too. I just returned from the Middle East, where we signed a contract to open in the coming year a facility to have also there in Oman a location, and we are close in acquiring a small company who's collecting waste in Houston to also expand into that area. Our oil and gas division, there we have an operation out of Norway, we have an operation in Aberdeen, Brazil and the Middle East. And we're also looking, once we are in Houston, to expand into the Americas. And lastly, we have an engineering department where I will tell a little bit more what great things we are doing and what great units we have. The Maritime Division. We are one of the few companies, and actually the only company who is doing it in more places around the world. We collect all types of waste, be it Annex 1 oily waste, be it Annex 2 chemical waste, sewage, solid waste. We take care of all the waste. And we do that by collecting directly from vessels, either by a barge, by a seagoing vessel like in Gibraltar, or by trucks. The waste that we have collected, we will recycle as much as possible. So the solid waste, the wood will be separated from the plastics, from the paper, etc. And from the oily waste, we will also try to recover as much oil as possible. And that oil will be used as a substitute fuel, either in factories, steel factories, cement factories, etc. We also just started a project called Collect Your Own Fuel. Because as you can see on the right-hand side, it takes 2 barrels of oil to manufacture 100 kilograms of plastic. But that 100 kilograms of plastic will, at one point in time, be 100 kilograms of plastic waste. And this 100 kilograms of plastic waste, we can turn again into 1 bottle or 1 barrel of oil. And that's what we're going to do in the Port of Rotterdam, with the help of the Port of Rotterdam and other stakeholders, to show that we can do more with plastics than just throwing into the seas. If we look into the liquid waste, where we are separating the oil as much as possible from the rest of the water and the chemicals, we use nature for treating the waters. It is a bio-treatment facility that we operate in all the locations, and in the end the water will meet the discharge criteria set, either to discharge again into the sea, or it will go to a local sewage system. And if we look into our maritime division, we currently have over 50 ship owners where we have contracts with, which means that once they are in our network, we are the preferred supplier for taking all their waste. And if we look into the picture of the shipping route, don't be fooled by the colors, because normally you say the darker it is, the more traffic there is, but in this case it's a different picture. The lighter the line, the busier it is. And what you see with the lighter lines, that the shipping routes go from northwest Europe into the Gulf of Mexico, through the Panama Canal to the Far East, Middle East, Suez Canal, through the Mediterranean, up to the north again. And if we look into Nature Group currently, we are already in northwest Europe. We are already in Gibraltar, where 90,000 vessels are passing the Straits of Gibraltar annually. On short notice, at least by the 1st of January, we will be in the Gulf of Mexico, and Oman will follow shortly in 2014. We are in the process of building this network. Throughout the world, it's small local players who are collecting waste in ports, and then mainly collecting the oily waste, because that's the most interesting part, because in the end you can do something with the oil. But taking care of the full package of all the waste, there's not a lot of companies, and there's only one company who is now building the network throughout the world, and that's Nature Group. In the next 3 to 5 years, we want to expand into the Far East, we want to expand into Brazil, South America, to have the full network covered, and double at least our maritime revenues. And then still, if you look into the international organizations, there's still a lot of focus on port reception facilities, because of course as a ship owner, if you have this waste and there's no proper facility to take care of your waste, well, I can understand in the end you will throw it in the oceans. And they're still allowed to discharge a lot of waste 12 miles out of the coast. But within the next 5 to 10 years, you can also imagine that there will be a zero discharge, because I cannot imagine that you like, at least I don't like, all the waste being thrown in the seas, and that we're in the sun at the beach and then you see all this stuff floating by. So within 5 to 10 years, we can imagine that there will be zero discharge, the same that you see also with the oil and gas. With the oil and gas division, which evolved out of the University of Stavanger, where a unique chemical was invented, a green chemical, which could separate oil and water emulsions. Normally, if you put oil with water, you shake it a little bit, but you put it on the table, it will by nature separate automatically. But you also have these oil-water emulsions, which you can put on the table for 1,000,000 years and it won't separate. This unique chemical will start the separation process and ensuring that the hydrocarbons will get together, and you can skip off the hydrocarbons and clean the water. This unique chemical was patented and was put into the market, and oil companies liked it very much, but they didn't want to have it done on board of their oil rigs. They said, well, we would like the waste to be taken ashore, so a facility was built in Stavanger, and the trick was done with this chemical. But after a couple of years, these smart engineers thought, well, of course it's, well, crazy and not very environmental friendly, to keep on shipping all this waste ashore all the time. So they sat together and they invented a unique compact treatment unit. It's a factory in a box. It was first a 20-foot container, currently it's a 12-foot container. And with this 12-foot container, we can treat up to 500 cubes of muddy drilling waste. We can treat even higher volumes of produced water waste offshore in an environmentally friendly way and at a fraction of the cost of shipping the waste ashore. And the oil and gas industry is very conservative, so it has taken a couple of years to get people convinced that this is truly working. Because they always ask, is it proven technology? Well, if it's new, it's not really proven yet. So you need to have some people to believe in it, support it. And in the meantime, we have done multiple projects for Statoil, Shell, Dong Energy. We have been on Transocean Arctic rigs. So we have the proof. And we are currently operating from the Barents Sea to Tanzania to Brazil. And all the projects that we've done so far have been very successful. Because we can treat the water to meet the discharge criteria, which are very often set at approximately 30 ppm oil in water to 15 ppm oil in water, but we can even treat to below 5 ppm oil in water. If you look into the expenditures of the offshore operators, our unit, it's a mobile unit which is sold as a solution. It comes with operators. It's not a plug-and-play system because you need to have some knowledge about what you're doing. And we focus currently mainly offshore. You can, of course, also use the unit onshore, but we are focusing offshore. And if you look into where the most investments are taking place, it is in Brazil, Norway, the US Gulf, UK, etc. And if we currently look into where we are operating, it is already out of Norway, because that's where the company was funded. We have an operation out of Aberdeen, where we're covering the Shetland Islands. We currently are operating in Tanzania. We have an agency in the Middle East. We are operating in Brazil. So we are covering those areas. And there is a huge demand for our units. We have grown in 1 year from 4 to 9 units. Within the next 3 years, we want to grow at least to 50 units. And the market is there. There are over 1,000 rigs drilling for oil. Each rig won't need a unit permanently. But if you say, well, every other month you would need a unit, or every other 2 months, at least 250 units for that market is the potential. And if you look into the produced water, FPSOs, it is even much higher. So 500 to 600 units is the minimum potential for our units. Then nature engineering. All the experience that we have gathered in the last 25 years in operating port reception facilities, in building the unique compact treatment units, is put together in a group of people who build factories on demand, who build solutions on demand. So, for example, for the Romanian government, we have built a treatment facility for a new dry dock facility in Oman, in the port of Duqm. We have built for Halliburton a specific solution for their wastewaters in Kazakhstan. And we are currently building a truly fantastic solution for the Ministry of Defense in one of your overseas territories. And also within our engineering division, as you might recall from the first page with a lot of text within the MARPOL, you have Annex 6, which is talking about vapors from vessels. We have our own vapor treatment unit, the Eco Scrub unit, which is a unique scrubber technology. You have many scrubber technologies. In this case, the fluid we use and the way we treat the vapors is unique. We have the best available technology in the Port of Rotterdam for treating fuel oil vapors, which means that once a terminal is applying for a new license, in the license it will mention the results that we get with our unit is the minimum standard they should achieve. They can build or design a unit themselves, or they can build it as we have it. Then, of course, into financials, I won't go through the sheets line by line. Compared to last year, we are growing both in revenue and in profit. We are a debt-free company. We only have some mortgage on a new build or a couple of new build barges. We are operating in Rotterdam. Otherwise, we don't have external financing, which you can see on the balance sheet. This is just to give you an idea about our divisions, all growing in revenue, all supporting our profit number underneath. So in short, nature is well positioned to get a good share of the worldwide waste market, both from maritime and from the offshore industry. We are the only global player. There is currently nobody who is looking into building this network. And we truly believe there's a huge value in a network. Because ship owners, they would like to rely on one partner who is taking care of their waste. Because they can give their waste to somebody who's very cheap. But in the end, if the waste is being dumped somewhere, and they can be traced back to them, they can be fined heavily. And if you look into the well-known Trafigura case, where waste ended up in the Ivory Coast and killed a lot of people, you don't want that as a professional operator, I can assume. The focus on the environment, as mentioned before, in a couple of years, and especially once the IMO can also show that there are enough proper port reception facilities, they could enforce that ships are going to discharge their waste. At this moment, there are not enough professional, good port reception facilities. And as a well-known phrase within nature, and nature will always find a solution, and that's what we always do. So we say clean seas, they are possible with nature. Thank you very much.